Hi, my name is Pavel Georgiev from Opsani, and in this video I will show you an easy way to create a Docker application from scratch without learning Docker Compose or writing any YAML at all. To do this, I'm going to use Scopus, a free tool that allows me to design and deploy Docker applications visually from my browser. So to get started, I'm going to create a new Scopus container. So I run this Docker command, which will download the latest version of Scopus, and it will run an instance and also export port 8100 where I can access the Scopus UI. I'll also put that command in the description of this video. Okay, so it looks like I have a Scopus instance running. Let me go and open that in a browser. So just hit HTTP, my hostname on port 8100. And this is what you see the first time you start Scopus. Since I don't have any applications loaded, Scopus is giving me several options to get me started. So I can discover what is currently running on my cluster. I can use our demo sample app, which illustrates Scopus capabilities. If I have a Docker Compose file, I can import that, or I can just start with a blank application, and let's do that. So I'll be creating a WordPress application, so I'll call it demo WP, and I have a choice of several types of infrastructure that Scopus can deploy to. So I'll just choose Docker Swarm. Right, so I have my application here. I still have the import options on top, and this is a Docker. This will be a Docker Swarm application. And if I open it, you see that it's a blank canvas, exactly as we wanted to. So if I go and click the edit icon here, I'll enter edit mode, and then from this button here, I can start adding new components to my canvas. So I'll start with adding a WordPress, which I'll call WP, and this uses the official WordPress image. So I'll need a database. This will be called DB, and I'll use MySQL. I think 5.7 is a recommended version for this. So I'll need some configuration to make these components work. So I'll just click on the edit tool, which allows me to edit all of the properties for a component. And I need to set some environment variables. So for the database, I need to set an initial password. So let's do that. And also, since I want the data to persist, I'll create a volume, so this will be my DB volume, and it will host data under this directory. Alright, so this is looking good, and then on the WordPress side, I would want to tell it which database to use. So that will be my DB host, which I've called DB. And then I would also want to give it the password. All right, so I'll set these environment variables, and this will be, I think I called it example. All right, and then I can connect those two components. So what this will do is, well, first it will visually tell me what my application looks like, which components talk to each other, and also when I'm deploying that, it will make sure that my database starts before my WordPress. So I don't have to worry about, waiting for the database, which I'm sure WordPress does, but your application may not. Okay, so I have a WordPress and a database, and what I will also need is expose that WordPress so that it's accessible from the world. So in Scopus, you do that by adding a gateway. And what a gateway does is essentially just exporting a component on the external network. So let me go and call this gateway in, and I would want to expose a new external port. So this will be port 80. And then if I look at the connection between my gateway and WordPress, I'll see that it exposes external port 80 and maps it to the internal port 80. Okay, so another common component that's usually used with WordPress is PHP You might want to have, easy access to your database. So I'm just going to add another component connected to my database, and I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be a PHP image. We'll call it PMA. And it also needs some configuration. So I'll say the database host is DB, the password, and then the user for the database. All right, this looks good. And another thing I would need to do is expose that PHP to the external network. So I'll add another gateway. All right, let's align these. And I'll call this in PMA. And you see Scopus is highlighting invalid name. So yeah, I've corrected that. And for this one, I would wanna, since I'm running that on the same host, I would wanna expose it on a different port. So let's say 8080. And then now, because my PHP myadmin runs on port 80, I would wanna say that I don't want the default port mapping, which maps the same external to internal ports, but I want to say, you know what, port 8080 on the external network will be mapped to port 80. Okay, so I think I have my application ready to be deployed. So just save it. And you see Scopus here highlights these components in blue to tell me that they can be deployed. I get a quick overview of the changes that will be deployed. So you see here that the number of components will go from 0 to 1. And I can actually go and review what exactly is going to get deployed. So Scopus generates this plan automatically, and I can go in and inspect it. So on the top level, I have all of my components, including a pre-flight and a post-flight step. These allow me to hook up into my deploy sequence and have injected steps to, for example, notify my monitoring system or send a Slack notification to my team that something's being deployed. So for each component, I get this sequence of steps generated. And you see here I have the forward path in green, and I also have a cleanup path in case something fails. And I'm just going to go ahead and run this. So you see it runs through the plan step by step, but at any point I can just pause it if I want to go check something, and maybe I can step through it step by step, or I can just say, you know what, let's go ahead and resume that. And I can go back to my model view and see what's the overall progress. Okay, looks like I'm done, so I'm just going to go and open my new WordPress. All right, so this is my host, and if I go here, yep, I see that I have a new WordPress installed. So let's go and set this up. Okay, so this is my new WordPress, and I can also go ahead and see my PHP, my admin page. All right, looks like it's showing me the WordPress database, and let's do the standard WordPress check. So we look at the posts table. We see we have 3 entries here. Let's go back and create a new post. All right. And if we refresh this, and yes, we see that this is being written into the database. Okay, so this was easy, but also not super exciting. So let's keep going. Let's say that I want to add a Let's Encrypt client for my WordPress. Let's Encrypt is a free service that allows you to get a signed SSL certificate and install it on your website, provided that you can prove that you're the owner of that domain. So let's add a new component here. I'm just going to reconnect these so that my traffic flows through my Let's Encrypt component. And for this, I will use a custom image that I built. It essentially runs Nginx with the Let's Encrypt client, and it exposes several configuration options. So I'll tell it that my backend is my WordPress component and that the URL that I want a certificate for is my host. So this one. Right, and I think that's all the configuration that this needs. Oh no, it also needs a volume, so I'll create a new volume. This will be called SSL and it will be mounted under the config directory. And then the last thing that I need to do is just change the expose port. So I want to run on port 443, and in case I forget, I can just add a comment here to say, okay, this is SSL, and I want to leave the default port mapping. Okay, so this looks good. I'm gonna save this, and you see here that Scopus detects that my application now has one new component that is not yet deployed, so it shows it in blue here. It generated a plan. I can go and review what the plan is going to be, and then I can just run it. So the first time you run Let's Encrypt, it needs to generate a key, which may take a while, and I know it writes progress in its logs. So I can go ahead and open the logs, and it looks like it's done. Yeah, it says server ready. I got my new certificate. Alright, so let's go and give it a try. So let's go back to my WordPress, and this time I'm gonna open it, HTTPS application. Alright, it looks like it's loading. I can log in, and if I look at the certificate, it says secure connection verified by Let's Encrypt. Alright, so that's how easy it was to create an application from scratch using Scopus without ever writing YAML. Now, you can use Scopus to continue modifying that application and make more changes and deploy them, but you can also go and look at the compose file that Scopus generated for this application, and you can save that in your version control system and use it in plain Docker, or if you want to use that in Scopus, you can always go and import a compose file. Thank you for watching. I hope this will get you started with your container apps. Please check the links in the description for details on how to run Scopus or how to contact us.